Comments on the county board members, by county board members. Mr. Bellich.
I want to thank all people that came to speak in open forum. And, I just want to say that I was kind of surprised that our proclamation that we wrote for afterbirth abortion was not allowed to be read. And I'm sure that's part of the reason people are upset. I mean, if you go to the people that live in your districts and you ask them, do you think it's okay to kill babies after they're born? How many people in your district are going to say, sure, go ahead, what the hell? Most people think it's disgusting. Most people can't even believe it's allowed. And when I said before about Christ Hospital, back in the early 2000s, I never even dreamt. I was in my 40s, and I never dreamt that there was such a thing as killing a live baby or letting it die. Never thought it was possible in the United States. I thought that was something for some third world country. Well, guess what? I met a girl named Jill Stanek, and you can Google her name because she's all over the place, because she was working in the warming station at Christ Hospital, where the babies that were born alive were put in a blanket and the nurses held them till they died, and they didn't get any water or food. So it's been going on for a long time, and if you don't believe me, Jill Stanek, just Google her name. You'll see all the stuff that went on. This is a sick thing. And what I said earlier, who makes the rules? And as a county, I didn't say make this a sanctuary county for live babies. I just said it's wrong. There's a point where we have to stand up for what's right. And it doesn't seem like we're getting there. And it's very upsetting to me. And I better stop talking because I'm not going to get really mad.
Ms. Winfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. Just a reminder, I forgot to mention earlier, is that Rhonda Novak was holding a workshop on the property tax assessments process immediately following the board meeting about the quad year piece, and I don't know, I'm looking at the time, if people are still willing to stay for that, if we're going to have enough to make that workable, or if we need to reschedule. So I'd like to have a show of hands of those people who are willing to stay. I see one, two.
Less than, I would say 20 minutes.
So those willing to stay? Okay. Do you want to keep it?
Okay.
So then we will keep it then. So following the wrap up of this, we'll have that committee of the whole. Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
Oh, could I, Mr. Executive, excuse me, Ken. Could I just add one more thing to that?
Oh, you still want?
Sorry. For those people who can't, providing the handout, so everybody will have it, handout to put into their binders so that you can get the information. Now I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I have a public service announcement. It's from a tweet I saw on Twitter, but it's a public invitation to honor a veteran with no family at the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery on tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. It's quoted by our state's attorney, Jim Glasgow: "No veteran should have a lonely funeral when he fought to keep us safe." I'm not a veteran, but I think this is very interesting, and I think we should all try to accommodate those who don't have family. So once again, it'll be tomorrow at the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Anybody else? Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Executive, on last week, one of Joliet City icons passed away in a person of Bishop Robert Sanders, and I turned my light on to say thank you to the Will County Sheriff Department. For 2 days they had a memorial for him on the far south side of Joliet Incorporated. Over 2,000 people per day tried to get into that facility, and the Will County Sheriff really stepped up to the plate and helped with the grid, the traffic grid there. So I just want to say kudos to Will County Sheriff and Mike Kelly for responding in very short notice and helping us get out of that tough parking place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone want any? Miss Ballinger? Oh. Oh, Miss Fritz. Okay.
Thank you. I think it's really sad. The public comments started just before the 2-hour mark of this meeting and went on for 45 minutes. I just think it's really sad that we have to listen to graphic details about how abortions are performed, and we have to hear these testimonies for 45 minutes, and it's really sad to me, and I wish that were not the state of things.
Thank you. Ms. Dollinger?
It's just a little reminder to everybody. I think in your emails you should have gotten something from the MAP Collaborative, and it's really asking for your input on the health of our county, kind of wrapping up a lot of the things and issues that you might be feeling about the state of the county, and it's looking at the themes and the strengths. So I do ask that you fill that out and make sure you return that and then share it with maybe your constituents and have them, more input we get, the better look of what we can get about our county. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ogala?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone who came to speak today. I want to thank everyone who remembered to wear blue, designating July as Keep All Babies Born Alive, Protect the Lives of All Babies Born Alive. Abortion is a very serious thing, and there are different reasons a woman chooses to do it. If it's a health reason or something, or detrimental, that can be sometimes understood. But the way the abortion works is that anybody can get an abortion at any time. And my son, his girlfriend, at 22 weeks decided that she was going to abort twins, a boy and a girl. This was on December 20th last year. So here we are looking forward to celebrating Christmas with family. My son was coming in from the Navy, and now we're at the hospital because she decided halfway through the procedure to change her mind. She told the doctor who was performing it at this clinic in Chicago that after they inserted the first, whatever it is, and she felt the babies move, that she wanted to stop. The doctor said I couldn't. So he continued, and then when the next doctor came in, he said, well, you could have stopped. So then she was rushed to the hospital, and at that point, both embryonic sacs were punctured. There was no way to save the babies at that point, and at 22 weeks, that's really too soon to be saved. So unfortunately, instead of going to the airport to pick up my son, who was coming in from the Navy, I was with my other son at the hospital. So it's not just impacting the woman who makes this choice, because my son was prepared to parent those children. My son was prepared, we were prepared, her mother was prepared. But the girl was not properly counseled. They asked her just a few simple questions. She was not in the right state of mind when she went in to do this. And that is where things become desperate. And that's why the women end up at the clinic that the last lady spoke at. And the reason why everyone is speaking is because it just seems to be so flippin' easy, because you say it's a procedure, just like you're going to get your teeth done. And it isn't a procedure. It's a long, drawn-out process that takes several days at that point of the abortion to happen. And that's why everyone, and we know we don't vote on this here, but we simply wanted a proclamation to protect the lives of all babies born alive, because there are lots of people who adopt children. My 3 children are adopted. This is something that we overlook, and we need to really look at helping women not get pregnant. That's the point. They should not get pregnant first. There's so many ways to prevent it. We need to have better conversations about that, and more serious talks about what happens when you do have an abortion. And I have quite a few friends, unfortunately, did choose abortion when they were young, and they still cry about it today. So people came because they wanted to have a voice, because they felt they didn't have a voice in Springfield. So I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for coming. I thank you for wearing blue, and I thank the support of those here who support this as well. Thank you.
Mr. Rollight, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you that we are in a body here, that we could discuss these hard issues. Obviously, this last hour has been pretty tough. I want to thank you that we have the freedom on both sides to have a discussion, and I think all too often we don't. So I also want to thank my colleagues that even if they disagree with me or I disagree with them, could move forward and be civil and understand that this issue is bigger than any of us. But yet we saw, some heartfelt things on both sides of the argument today. What I do want to point out is the incivility that occurred last time, and it was members in this chamber here. And I would ask, I know these are heated issues. I know that sometimes we talk about uncomfortable things. Sometimes we're on two sides of the equation. But let's have some civility with each other, because that's when dialogue takes place, regardless. I do, I do want to say that I do appreciate that we can have these discussions in this open forum. So understand the implications of the language within legislation. I would say, instead of believing one side or the other, go and look at the legislation yourself. Compare it against what's been done in the past when you get lawyers involved in the implications of these words in this legislation, because there's a reason for it. So with that, I just want to thank some of you, or most of you, for being open and honest and allowing dialogue.
Thank you, Tim. Any other board members want the floor? Now move on to our majority leader, Mr. Ferry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Executive. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd first like to open up with a reminder that there's a blood drive at the Rialto Square Theater. By donating blood, you'll help kids battling cancer, accident victims, and patients fighting life-threatening conditions. Every 2 seconds, someone in the United States needs blood. Wednesday, July 24th, make a difference in the lives of others. July 24th from 1 to 7 p.m. Add that to your calendar if you can. Rialto Square Theater, 102 North Chicago Street, Joliet. And now, first of all, I'd like to, aside after our commercial there, I'd like to acknowledge the most senior employee of the county, Deborah Alexander, 47 years and 9 months. Wow. That's all I could do to make 24 years before I retired. But 47 years, that is really a lifetime on the job. And then one other main thing. Welcome my new colleague, Margaret Tyson, once again. Thank you.
Next up, minority leader, Mr. Frizzle.
Good afternoon, Willow County. I don't usually get to say that. I too would like to thank our speakers today. I think they were well prepared. They brought up good points. And I didn't hear a lot of it because all I do is think about my grandkids when they start talking. But thank you for coming today. I'd also like you to ask everybody to say a prayer for Ray's employee who was in a horrific accident 3 weeks ago, but sounds like he's on the mend. And so, it's upset, obviously, the life of the individual and his family, but it's certainly upset Ray as well. Now for some good news, we've talked about the Cadillac tax the last couple of years, and at NACO last year I was able to reintroduce that at the Finance Committee meeting. This year I didn't have to reintroduce it, we just voted on it and passed the resolution to help repeal that. Minutes ago, the House voted to repeal the Cadillac tax, and it looks like there's at least 42 sponsors on both sides of the aisle in the Senate. So as soon as they get the details worked out, it looks like that will get repealed. That would have cost the county between $1 million to $1.5 million a year based on the tax program we had. It was supposed to go in effect in 2022. So hopefully that's some good news that'll be repealed real soon. And finally, 50 years ago tomorrow, Neil Armstrong took his first steps on the moon. And I, like many my age, remember sitting glued to the black and white picture on the TV and just sitting there going, how did they do it? And of course, we all thought they had those little digital high-powered computers that helped them get there, which of course, today, my iPhone has more computing power than the module, the lunar module and the command module put together. And so, if you consider the task that they accomplished, it makes me wonder why some of the issues we deal with today seem so insurmountable. So I think it comes down to one team, one nation, working and cheering each other on together to make things happen. And so let's work together in that same kind of team effort that they did in 1969, and maybe we can have some more great leaps in Will County. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, our speaker, Denise.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I just have a couple of 3 things. First of all, thank you to everybody this morning for your input and your willingness to speak whatever your particular positions were on a number of issues today. That's really healthy and helpful for all of us. Secondly, I just want to compliment ISACO, our state organization. We had the biggest turnout ever at the NACO conference this year because of the work that's being done to promote a unified state organization. So kudos to that group. And third, I want to thank everybody for me personally, because last year you passed a resolution supporting me for the NACO Board of Directors. That came true at this conference in Las Vegas. I was named to the National Board of Directors. So thank you all for your support. And that's all I have.